All right, ladies and gentlemen, come on in, grab a seat. Come on in, grab a seat. Please try to keep at least a seat or two between you and your friends. Before you take off your mask, that'd be great. Come on in if you're in the lobby. All right. What is up, guys? Hello? There they are. All right, so I have, as you guys come on in and grab a seat, welcome to Keystone Youth. Super glad that you're here. And we're going to start right away tonight. Oh, wow, we're going to wait a minute because we're going to wait till everybody comes in and grabs a seat. Then we'll get started. So once everybody gets in, we'll get started. Here, I want to know, real quick, how many of you are super glad the snow is melting? You're like, yes, get out of here, you white devil powder. All right, everybody, you guys are like, okay, let's get rid of this thing. I'm ready. I'm excited. I didn't even wear a coat today. The rest of you are like, yeah, we never wear coats. I know, I get it. But anyway, so all right, everybody, okay. Here we go. We're going to start tonight with something I think is going to be super fun. I want to start tonight by playing a game that I'm going to pit connection groups against each other. And so here's what we're going to do. I need a leader from each connection group to come up front. Trust me, it's not embarrassing. No, I just need an adult to come up here and get something from me. All you have to do is come get something. We're going to play a game called Bomb Squad. Okay? We're going to play a game called Bomb Squad. And connection group leaders, you're going to put there we go. This is the bomb that your team must defuse. Your bomb consists of 7 wires. You got to listen up. Connection group leaders need to especially hear this. All right. Shh. Would you like to lose? If you don't listen, you're going to blow up. So, all right, here we go. I'm not messing around. All right. We're going to play Bomb Squad. And so every connection group has a bomb that they are, you can go ahead and grab one out of here, that they are required to detonate and without blowing up. Here's how it's going to work. When I say go, you're going to stand up, mask up, and with your teams, you're going to break yourselves up into 7 parts. So if you have 7 people in your group, 1 to a part. If you have 14 people in your group, 2 to a part, you get the math. Okay, good, school, yay, math. All right, so hold on. When that happens, you are going to number off number 1 through 7 in your groups. Team number 1 or group number 1 from your team will be dispatched to go find a clue that will help you dismantle the bomb. I'm going to give you guys a little break, and then I'm going to send out team 2, team 3, team 4, team 5, team 6, and team 7. All right? Once your group has all the clues, you can start dismantling the bomb. The first team to correctly dismantle the bomb without blowing up, that's important, wins the game. So here's what's going to happen. There are clues in the Keystone Kids wing. They're not in the classrooms. They're all in the hallway. There's 7 clues, okay? So everybody right now, stand up, break your group up into a group of 7. Break your group up into a group of 7. Here we go. All right. All right, there we go. All right. All right, you guys ready? So, if you need to send like 2 in one group, it's fine. All right, you guys ready? Shh. When you guys got it, say got it. If you guys need to repeat a number, that's totally fine. Okay. All right. Here's how this is going to work. Shh. The bomb stays here with your leader who's strapped to it. Okay. Shh. Here's how this works. I'm going to send the groups out. You cannot bring the clue back with you, and you cannot take a picture of the clue. you have to remember what it says. So when I say go, group 1 is going to go. On your mark. Shh. Hey, I need quiet. Do you guys have any questions? Shh. I will release the team. I will release the groups. I'm going to stagger it so you don't kill each other going through the door. All right? So, all right, I'm going to release group 1 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Group 1, you're ready to go. Let's get some game music. All right, group 2, you can go. Group 2, memorize your clue. Group 3, you can go.
Back in my heels and I'm skipping my feet. Everything seems so new. It's like I'm me, but with a whole new piece. Never thought I'd go
Group 4,
through,
you can
but now
go.
I know that all the dark times only make the light shine brighter.
Group 7, you can go.
After all my tears,
7, you can go. 6, you can go. Group 5, you can go. All right, all the groups have been dispatched. You cannot write down your clue. You cannot take a picture of your clue. When you get back, share your clue. It's a nice hat, Molly. I love it. If you're not group 1, I might wait. If you're not group 1, I might wait and see what happens because you don't know what your other clues are. If you're not group 1, wait. I would wait. I'm recommending you wait until your group 1 gets back.
Think pain is all I get. Well, I'm thicker skinned. I know who I am, and though I may still get down sometimes,
Don't blow
I know
up.
it's gonna pass
Don't
by.
blow up.
Yeah. I am here after all my tears. I am here, facing all my fears. I'm alive and I'm alright.
You're going to want to read clue 1 before. Oh, they're going back for seconds. Oh, we're going back for seconds. Make sure you get clue 1 before you start doing anything. I said you can't write down the clue. Do you remember it? So wait, you're going to want to go.
Nothing's gonna break me down. Nothing's gonna take me out.
I know. I literally just thought of that.
I'm here.
All right, we're making. What was rule number 1? What was rule number 1? Do not disarm until you have all the instructions. That's rule number 1. All right. Somebody bring me a disarm bomb. Come on. Sure? Wait, did you read all the instructions in order? Okay, second. Are you sure? Are you sure you got them all in order? You might want to go back and check some.
I am here. I'm here.
Don't blow up. What are you guys missing? What's that?
I'm dead.
Where's your first person? Oh, we're getting close. We're getting close.
In these trees, and I don't know if I even believe, but
Oh, this is fun.
I'm gonna find it. I see an ocean.
Oh no, we're pulling wires before we're done.
know if you heard me say it, but
Why don't you guys, since you have a smaller team, why don't you guys take it and go see if, go read the clues again. There you go.
if I don't, I'll never know if I'm made up.
All right, are you dying? Are you blowing up?
Made up.
Oh no, you're gonna blow up. So what is clue number 1? What's clue number 2? Which is what color? What is clue number 3? What's clue number 7? Clue number 7 is what? Did we say odd? We meant even numbers. If you want to go back and check, you can go check. You guys give up? Oh, no, you're wrong. Go back. What's that? The order of what? I'm not telling you. Go rewire it. Try again.
I see an island up ahead where some men have gone, but most
Oh, we're getting
haven't dared
close.
to
I can feel it.
ride.
Why are you guys... I'm tired. Do you have it? Let's see it.
Follow your light as it leads, just like
What
the
number is
wind
it?
upon all seven
Wrong.
seas, yeah.
Pablo blew up.
I'm gonna find it.
All right, so far I've got a lot of people blowing up. Wait, you think you have it? What number? Let's see. You did plenty of them. Wrong. No. The last clue says, did we say odd number? We meant even numbers. All right. Here, give me a little bit down on the music so I can... Okay, I want to give you guys a little bit of a clue. Shh, I want to give you guys a little bit of a clue. All together now, what is instruction number 1? Does everybody know? Follow all the directions before you start. Number 7 is really, really important. Don't mess up number 7. What's number 7? Does everybody know what number 7 is? We said odd numbers, but we meant even. You guys think you got it? Let's see it. Let's see it. Bring me your bomb. Let's see. See what we got. We're getting close. That is correct. After multiple failed attempts, I am excited to say, now, all right, let's go through it together, see if you guys can figure it out. Number 1, read all the instructions. Number 2, patriotic wires, which are what color? Red, white, and blue. Number 3, treat yellow wires as red wires. Number 4, don't cut the red wires no matter what the other instructions say. So don't cut the yellow or the red. Number 5, what was number 5? Pull all the even or all the odd numbers. But wait, we meant even. And number 6, cut all wires next to the orange wire. There you go. All right, great job, everybody. I got a huge shout out to Kayla for not getting blown up. Go grab your seats. You know what you win? You get to keep your leader around because you saved her life. So, great job. Hey, how many of you, that was harder than you thought it would be? How many of you were like, oh yeah, that'll be super simple, right? All right, shh. Hey, I have a question for you. Why was it so hard? What was that? Because nobody else wanted to. Okay. The clues and the instructions were all over the place. That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, it got confusing, didn't it? How many of you, like, you got frustrated at some point with someone on your team? You can just raise your hand if you got a little bit annoyed with somebody on your team. All right. That whole team, you guys are all like, no, we just don't even like each other anymore. We need a new connection group. All right. What else? Was there anything else that made that hard? At times, did it feel like some of the instructions contradicted each other? Yeah, that was really confusing and frustrating, wasn't it? In a little bit, we're going to be talking about wisdom and knowledge, knowing what to do and how to make the right choice. And when you're staring at that bomb, and you're staring at all those wires, and you're trying to figure out what to do, you have all of these instructions, but figuring out how to follow them is actually pretty hard. And honestly, life is a whole lot like that. So in just a little bit, we are going to be talking about wisdom and knowledge, knowing what to do and knowing what decision to make. But first, I want to invite David. Where are you at? There he is. I heard your voice. Grab that microphone. I want to invite David up on the stage. Most of you guys, you may know David from such things as leading worship, dominating you at, what else are you good at? Mario Kart? Mario Kart, Smash Bros. Or leading the most amazing group of 6th grade men on the planet. But I'm super excited. First of all, guys, I just want to tell you officially tonight, I'm excited to welcome David. He is officially on staff with Keystone. So yeah, welcome, David. So David is the Keystone Youth Intern, so he's working here part-time throughout the rest of the school year, so you're going to be seeing a lot more David, and that's a good thing for all of us. So David, tell us what is going on at Keystone Youth right now.
Well, basically, we've been talking about it for a couple weeks. We have Glow coming up this Friday. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I've seen like the cannons and everything that's going to be in here. Glow in the dark, everything, games, some snacks, some paint. It's just going to be awesome. So, but tonight, sure, candies. But tonight is the last night you can register. So if you haven't registered yet, make sure you do it tonight. Otherwise, you probably can't go.
You're like thinking about registering, but you've been putting it off.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't put it off. You're going to want to go. It's super fun. I've seen what we're going to do, so it's going to be fun. Dodgeball, if you like dodgeball. Pelting your friends with dodgeballs. That's awesome.
In the face. No, not in the face. I'm kidding. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, do you have anything else for us?
No, that's about it.
Any other announcements at all?
No, I don't know.
What about can you tell us what's going on with all of that random clothing, water bottles, and all of those things out in the lobby? Why is this a Salvation Army?
It's not. That's called the Lost and Found table, and there's a lot of stuff over there.
Yes, thank you. Guys, thank you very much. Give it up for David. Hey, if you have lost something, maybe it's a shirt that says Jaguar Strength on it. Okay, there's only a few of those floating around here, right? We all know that belongs to the North Side School. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, sorry, I ignited a war. Maybe it's a really cool water bottle with some great stickers. Maybe it's a pair of really random looking sunglasses that look like they belong to Elton John in the 1970s. Whatever it is, if you've lost something, it's probably out there. Either take it home with you tonight. Don't take other people's stuff. That's just weird. But either take it home with you tonight, or I get to keep it. That's all right? Fair? Sweet. With that said, if you have your Bibles, go ahead and grab them. If you have your Bibles, go ahead and grab them. We talked about a little bit with that game that we played, that sometimes decisions are way harder than you think they're going to be. Have you ever gotten stuck in a situation where you had to make a decision and you thought, I actually don't know what to do? I used to ask this question to people all the time. I would ask the question, tell me about a time where you made a decision before you had all the facts. Anybody else ever done that? You make a decision before you have all the facts, right? So, for instance, you're playing a game, or in real life, you're disarming a bomb, right? And you run back and immediately say, cut the red one, cut the red one, cut the red one, right? Because you're not waiting for the rest of the facts to come in. You're just like, you got a little bit of information and you're ready to like make it happen. And if you're impulsive like that, here's how it could look for you. It could look that way a little bit when it comes to spending your money, right? Like as soon as you get any money at all, like $5, $10, $100 from grandma, right? You go mow a lawn and somebody pays you. As soon as you get money, you immediately grab said money, run to the internet, or if you're old school like me, you go to the store, and you spend that money as fast as you get it. Any other spenders in the house? You just admit to being a spender. There's a few of you. Okay. Like, spending money is so much fun, but sometimes we spend money without waiting for all the facts, right? Sometimes we spend money and then all of a sudden, like a day later, we're like, oh, shoot. If I'd have actually stopped to think, there's probably something way better I could have spent my money on. Sometimes we make decisions without having all the facts when it comes to our schoolwork. You guys ever make a decision to like skip a project? Or to like rush through your homework a little bit because it's not gonna matter that much, only to show up the next day and like there's a pop quiz. You're like, if I'd have only known there was gonna be a quiz, if I had more information, I would have made a better decision. But sometimes, some of us are the opposite. Some of us, instead of making decisions without all the facts, we actually get way too many facts and we refuse to make decisions. It's called, here's a big fancy word. You can go home and say, I learned a fancy word. Analysis paralysis. All right? Analysis being a fancy word to say you analyze things. Paralyzed to say you can't move. Here's what happens. You start researching something you want to buy. You have something you want to spend your money on. I know what I want. But then the more you research it, the more you wonder, like, should I get this one or this one? Or this one over here? Or this one over here, but what if I spend my money on this one and it turns out that this would have been a better deal, and you freeze? Maybe that's the decision with like how you're gonna spend your time, right? I don't know, do I commit to going to this friend's birthday party? But what if I get a better offer later, right? Like, what if my friend Bill invites me to his birthday party and I like 80% like Bill, but I'm wondering if there's somebody that 95% that I like that I would like rather have, right? And so we sit there and we go, oh man, I don't want to make a decision. I'm analysis paralysis, right? Like, I'm stuck. Anybody like that? Okay, I got a few of you. I flip back and forth between the two, to be completely honest. Tonight we're going to talk about wisdom and knowledge. Here's what knowledge is. Knowledge is pretty simple. It's information. Knowledge is having information. And some of you are those information collectors. You love random information. You could tell me more about the most obscure, weird things. You have no idea when you're going to use this information, but you know all of it, right? Some of you, you have tons of this useless knowledge, these random things. That's knowledge. And maybe it's super helpful. Maybe you have an advanced knowledge of mathematics. Okay? We all hate you, by the way, because math is hard for the rest of us. All right? It's true, though. Maybe you have an advanced knowledge of a sport. You know everything there is to know about everyone who's ever played the position of tight end in the history of football. It's not going to benefit you at all, but you have all this knowledge, right? That's what knowledge is. You just know things. Wisdom is different. Wisdom is knowing what to do with the knowledge that you have. So let me ask you a question. Are there some people in your school or in your family that have knowledge? Are all those people wise? Is it possible to be full of knowledge and completely empty and without wisdom? Yeah, it is. I have a friend who's like one of the smartest people you'll ever meet on the planet. Okay, that might be an exaggeration, but it's only by like 3%, okay? And he's brilliant, but like when it comes to wisdom, he's like a complete airhead, right? Like he's so smart and yet so dumb. And you're like, how is that even possible? It's because he's full of knowledge, but he's empty of wisdom, right? Okay, knowledge and wisdom. And I think wisdom is where we probably get into trouble, isn't it? We have knowledge that's somewhat useful, but when it comes time to make the right decision, we either don't listen to our knowledge, we don't gather enough knowledge, or we just run into a decision, or we just get stuck and we're stuck in a circle. Tonight, I want to talk to you about the knowledge and the wisdom of God and how it's available to us and how we can tap into that for our life, okay? So the knowledge and the wisdom of God, because here's the reality: God has never gotten stuck in analysis paralysis. He's never been like, you know what, I know everything there is to know in the universe, but I'm not quite sure what to do with Will, right? Other people have said that, but not God. God's never had that problem. God's never had the problem of making a jumpstart decision before he gathers all the information. And here's why. Because God is all-knowing and all-wise. In other words, God has all of the information and he always knows the right thing to do with it. Unlike you and unlike me. All right? So let's jump in and let's look at what that looks like and what does the Bible have to say about the knowledge and the wisdom of God, and then how do we take advantage of and tap into that? Look at Romans chapter 11, verse 33 with me. You ready? Oh, the depth of the riches and the wisdom and the knowledge of God. Okay, so it's deep. If it was like a pool, how deep would it be? He says this: how unsearchable are his judgments and untraceable are his ways. Who has known the mind of the Lord, and who has been his counselor? Paul says in Romans, he says, man, the depth of how deep God's wisdom goes is unsearchable. You'll never find the bottom of it. You'll never find something where God doesn't have a complete and total knowledge of it. And you'll never find a situation where God doesn't know the right step to take, the right thing to do. God has complete knowledge and complete wisdom. But guys, if I'm honest with you, I think sometimes we look at the situations in our life. Have any of you ever, you don't have to raise your hand, but any of you ever been in a situation and you're like, hold on, if God really knows everything, and if God really can make the right decision all the time, why on earth did he let this happen? Have you guys ever felt that? Man, okay, let's be real for a minute. If God knows everything, and if God always makes the right decision, why is COVID a thing? Right? If God, we talked a couple weeks ago that God is all powerful and that he's loving and good. And so if God is powerful, loving, good, and he always knows the right thing to do, why is COVID a thing? Why is death and pain and divorce, right? Why is mental health a problem? And I think that's where I want to take a little bit and pause. I want to tell you a little bit of story from the book of Job in the Old Testament. And here's what I'm not going to be able to answer for you. I'm not going to be able to answer for you why God chose to allow COVID to be COVID. I'm not going to be able to answer for you why God chose or why God allowed some of the things that have come into your life to come into your life. Some of these things I would love to sit down and have a conversation with you. Your connection group leader would love to have a conversation with you one-on-one, but we can't answer those things all from this stage. But I think this story, what we're going to read from the book of Job is super encouraging. I think it's super encouraging because there's a guy, his name is Job, in the book of Job. He has a book of the Bible named after him, so you know it went pretty well for him in the end. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, his perfect life was shattered. So Job, if you're in the Old Testament, if you're in the book of Job, in Job chapter 1, it says that Job was rich. He owned tons of land. He owned tons of livestock. He had tons of people working for him. So he was rich. He had a big family that loved him and all hung out with him. Job had tons of family. He had tons of friends. He was super well known and well respected in the community. If you were to walk into town and go, hey, do you know Job? Everybody would have been like, oh, totally know Job. Job's a rock star. Job's life was pretty much perfect. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, at least seeming to Job, out of nowhere, everything was gone. Literally in the course of a day, all of his wealth was gone. Everything he owned got wiped out. The next day, all of his family, his kids were gone. They died all at once. And right on the heels of that, all of a sudden, out of nowhere again, his health went from being super healthy and everything's good and everything's going well, his health was wiped out. And you're like, hold on a second. Why did that happen? What did Job do about it? And Job is a really long book. It's like 42 chapters, I believe. And most of that time is spent with Job sitting in his pain, literally physical pain of he had health issues like crazy now. It's emotional pain because his kids are all dead. It's like all of these questions in his head, and he's sitting with his friends and he's asking and he's trying to figure it out. You see, Job trusted God. Job knew that God was good and powerful. He knew that God was wise. But then why did all this stuff happen? And over the course of like 40 chapters, Job's friends try to give him all these reasons. Well, maybe you're sinning and you're living this secret sinful life. Job's like, that's not it, man. Like all my sin that I can think of, I've confessed to God. Like I trust, I'm 100%, I'm all in with God. And they're like, well, maybe this and maybe that. And they try to come up with all these reasons and all these solutions. And finally, Job gets to a point where he's just done. And he's like, and they're like, why don't you just curse God and die? Is what his, like all of his friends and his wife tell him. They're like, just curse God and just go die somewhere. Which is kind of depressing, right? Like the most depressing thing you've heard at youth group in a while? Yeah, for sure. And so Job begins then to complain to God. And it says that out of a storm, God spoke to Job. Now, I don't know how your day goes. Most of the time, my day doesn't include a voice out of a storm from God Almighty. That's not my average Wednesday. And it wasn't Job's either. Out of nowhere, out of the storm, God showed up, and he has some words for Job that I think are really helpful for us as we ask these questions of, okay, does God really love us? How do I know if I can trust him? And God doesn't show up and say, hey, here's the reason I let all these things happen to you. God never tells him that we know the reason it happened. Here's what God says. He says, hey, Job, where were you when I created the heavens and the earth? He says, hey, Job, where were you when I decided to put fish in the sea? Where were you when I decided to make dragons? Right? He's like, did I ask for your input on how to make a good elephant? Right? Like, I didn't ask for your opinion on those things, did I? Here's what he says in Job chapter 38, verse 36. Who put wisdom in the heart or gave the mind understanding? In other words, he says, hey, Job, who do you think that it is that actually gave you the ability to understand the things that are happening? He says, who has the wisdom to number the clouds? Okay, think about that for a second. How many clouds are there? I don't know. God says, hey, do you know that? Because God's like, I do. And I love this. Or who could tilt the water jars of heaven when the dust hardens like cast metal and the clods of dirt sticks together? In other words, he says, hey, Job, who's the one who decides to make it rain when it's so dry that all the ground is just dried up and cracked? And the way God says it is, who's going to tilt the water jars of heaven? Like God's like, it's no big deal. It's like watering a plant. What does God do? He says, hey, Job, wisdom and knowledge comes from me. You're small. And he says, if you believe that because you don't understand everything that's going on, that it's because I'm not good, or I don't know, or I'm not wise, or I'm not powerful, you're missing the point. Job thought he was in a place to be able to ask questions. But the truth is that Job just couldn't see the whole picture. And at the end of 4 chapters of God having a conversation with Job, or 3 chapters, Job says this in Job 42:2. Talking to God, he says, I know that you can do anything, and no plan of yours can be thwarted. It means can be like challenged or made useless. You asked, who is the one who conceals my counsel with ignorance? Job says this, surely I spoke about things I didn't understand that were too wondrous for me to know. You said, listen now and I will speak. When I question you, you will inform me. I'd heard reports about you, but now my eyes have seen you. Therefore, I reject my words, where he was questioning God, and I'm sorry for them because I'm just dust and ashes. You see, what God tells Job is that life is a lot like a story. And that sometimes we look at our role in the story of life and the story of what God's doing, and we see ourselves in a position to be the creator, to be the one who gets to decide the narrative of the story. We get to decide the plot. Sometimes we look at it and we see ourselves as the main actors or the centerpiece of the story. And what God reminded Job is that, hey, Job, you're not the author of this story. Hey, Job, you're not even the main actor in this story. And I don't know if you've ever watched a movie where you're like, you asked yourself, why on earth did they let that happen to the main character that I liked? Have anybody ever had like a favorite character die off in a movie and you're mad? Or a book, you're like, come on, are you kidding me? You can't kill, I don't want to give away any movies, but just so you know, never mind. Sorry, I won't say it. Okay. Guys, have you ever felt that way? What God reminds Job in this story by reminding Job of how small he is and us of how big God is that God reminds Job that he is the author of the story, that God can see the whole picture from a viewpoint that we can't see it. And in fact, he is indeed working all things together for our good because God has all the knowledge of the plot line from the very beginning, from the prequel, all the way to the end credits. God knows every single bit of it. And so sometimes when we're in the middle of the darkest scene, if you're a Harry Potter fan, right? And you're like stuck in book 4, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is depressing. Is it ever gonna get any better? And it doesn't, it gets worse, way, way worse before it gets better, right? You're like, oh, this is taking forever. I want it to get better already. And I think sometimes that's true with our lives, right? And here's what I'm telling you. I'm not gonna give you all the answers tonight for why God allowed COVID, for why God's allowed pain and hurt in your family, for why God has allowed school to be challenging for you, or any number of other things. I do want to tell you this, that God does know. And that God does know the exact right next step for you to do for your good. And what he asked Job to do is he said, hey, Job, will you trust me? And what he's asking you to do is, hey, guys, will you trust me? See, Job had recognized that he wasn't seeing the whole picture. He began to fear God because he saw God as so much bigger than he is. And then God began to give him wisdom. And I want to just give you a little spoiler at the end of the story. It says that God restored Job to way more than he even had before. It says that God restored Job's fortunes and his family, and Job had come through this thing, and God said, hey, I want to bless you again. There's restoration and there's good things coming. Trust the one who's the author of the story. And look at me, Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7. This was true for Job. It says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. So, to go back to our Job thing, right? Job came in Job 42 and said, hey, you're right. God, I've now seen you for who you are. I trust you. And some of us, we want to know the right thing to do, the next right thing to do with our life, but we actually don't want to listen to the wisdom of God. We say we want to make the right decision, but let's be honest, like we kind of want to do our own thing, right? But the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, but fools despise wisdom and discipline. We have a decision to make. Do you want to live the wise life? We're actually going to spend a ton of time talking about wisdom and everyday issues in the next couple months. But for right now, I just want to ask you that. Do you want to live the wise life? Look at Proverbs chapter 2. It says this, indeed, if you call out for insight or cry out for understanding, if you look for it like silver and search for it like a hidden treasure, you'll understand the fear of the Lord and the knowledge of God, because the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth comes understanding. Guys, look at that. He makes a promise. He says, hey, do you guys want wisdom? Do you want to not just know a bunch of stuff, but actually know what to do with the knowledge you have? He says, look, if you look for it, if you ask for it, God will give it to you. Do you have a situation in your life right now that is so frustrating because you don't know what the right thing to do is? And maybe it's a little bit more important than how do you spend $20? Maybe it's a big deal. Maybe it's a relationship that you have with somebody that is just on the rocks and you're like, I don't know how to fix this. I need wisdom. Maybe it's something going on at school and you're like, man, life at school is hard right now. God, would you give me wisdom? He says, hey, if you ask, God will give it to you. Look at the New Testament says it this way in James chapter 1, verses 5 through 8. If any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives it generously and ungrudgingly, and it will be given to him. Hey, did you hear that? Guys, if you want wisdom, if you want to make the right decisions in your life, it says ask God, he'll give it to you generously and ungrudgingly. In other words, he's not mad at you or annoyed with you for asking. Have you ever asked your parents for something and like they give it to you, but you can tell they don't really want to? No? Okay. A couple of you? Yeah. They're like, oh, fine, you can have it, right? Like, this is us at my house when, like, not to throw anybody under the bus, but I have 3 kids, and it's one of them. That's all I'm saying. It's like 1 o'clock, it's 12:30, we just finished lunch. Dad, can I have a snack? No, you can't have a snack. We just finished lunch. It's 12:45, Dad, can I have a snack? It's 12:55, Dad, can I have a snack? Dad, I really want a snack. Give me a snack, Dad. I'm starving. I'm like, no, you're not. You ate 45 minutes ago. But eventually I go, fine, go get a cheese stick, right? I'm like, yeah, you can have a snack, but I want you to know with my face and my voice, I'm not happy about it. Any of your parents use something like that at home? Yeah, and maybe it's the snacks, but maybe it's something else. Maybe it's you want to go to this party and you're like, Mom, I want to go to this thing. I want to go to this thing. Can I go to this thing? I really want to go to this thing. Fine, you can go. Just leave me alone, right? God says this, hey, if you guys need wisdom, if you want to make good decisions, all you got to do is ask. And not only is he going to give you what you ask for, he's going to give it to you generously. In other words, if you're serious about it, he'll give you more than you asked for. And he'll do it with a happy heart. So to go back to these hard situations where it's really hard to trust the wisdom and the knowledge of God. Could you imagine if instead of shaking our fists at God, which is what Job did for a little while, we went to God and we said, hey, God, this thing is really confusing. I don't know why these things are happening at my house. I don't know why these things are happening for me at school. I don't know why these things are going down. But God, I trust you. Would you give me wisdom to know how to deal with it? God, will you help me to know the right decisions to make? God, will you help me to do the right thing? God, will you help me to choose to follow you? And it says, he's going to give it to you ridiculously generously. That's my translation. Then he says this, but let him ask in faith without doubting, because the doubter is like a surging sea. He's driven and tossed by the wind, and that person shouldn't expect to receive anything. It's like this little warning at the end says this, hey, if you're going to ask for the wisdom of God, you better be all in believing that God is who he says he is. You need to be all in, because can I tell you, a lot of us ask for wisdom about the things we want wisdom about, But maybe it's possible. I want to give you like a couple of just practical steps as I close. Maybe it's possible that you're telling God or you're telling people in your life that you want wisdom, you want to make the right decisions, but you already know that you're doing something wrong and you should stop, and you're just not willing to. In other words, you're saying with your mouth that you want wisdom, but with your actions, you're saying, no, I actually just want to do life my own way. Maybe you know there's something you should be doing, and you're not doing it. You say you want wisdom, but you're not willing to obey the things that God's clearly told you to do. I want you to just take a minute. I want you to think about what is one area of your life that you need wisdom. One area where you go, man, God, if you would help me to understand you better in this, help me to know what to do. Maybe it's a peer pressure area at school. Maybe it's something in your house. And I want to ask you to, in your mind, you don't have to answer it out loud, be really honest with me, or with yourself, actually. How much have you really asked God about it? Like, we say we pray about things, but usually it's like drive-through prayers, pizza order prayers, right? Like we talked about those, like where you just call about, hey, God, help me out with this, and then we're done and we move on. I want to invite you, if there's something that you're seeking wisdom in, I want you to share that with your group tonight. Hey, guys, there's this situation at my house. There's a situation at school with these friends. I need help. I need wisdom. And I'm willing to follow God no matter what it means he asks me to do. So the challenge tonight is this. Trust that God is completely knowledgeable and completely wise. He knows what to do. And he's on your side. He wants to give you that wisdom to live your life in a way that is going to bring the most benefit and good to you if you trust him. Let's pray. Jesus, thank you for these students. Thank you that you included stories in the Bible like Job's, because in those stories, we see that life isn't always perfect, and that God, even in the midst of that, you're still good. And God, as I sit here, I think about the year that these students have had. Things that are hard at home, and COVID making life difficult everywhere, and things that are hard at school and with friends and relationships. And God, we need wisdom. But more than anything, we need to trust you. And so tonight, I pray that if there's students here in this room, God, I believe there are, who've never actually trusted you, that your wisdom and the way that you want them to live their life is worth following. God, I just pray that for the first time, even tonight, they would just say, hey, God, you're in charge. I want to follow you. And God, for the rest of us, help us to be on our knees seeking wisdom. In Jesus' name, amen. You guys are dismissed. One last thing. I did not put them out, but they're on the back bench by the lost and found. There are questions. If you have questions about God that pop up while we're talking and you want us to answer them, we're going to do a Q&A in a couple weeks. Make sure you fill those out and put them in the basket after connection group. That's it. You're dismissed. Totally forgot about that.
It's easy when you know how. The future forward, a star constellation. You know I'm shining brighter, still got that motivation. I look to you, you show me that trust. It's not a win-less, we both are moving up, yeah. Living like legends, keeping it fresh. Got a good feeling, gonna make it last. Count your blessings, living my life, living my life, living my life. Count your blessings, baby. I turn it all around when I was feeling down, and nobody could see that I was worth the crown. But now I'm on my grind, you're wasting all my time. Future's looking bright, cause I ain't on the side.
Count your blessings every night. You learn these lessons, future's bright. Don't let it slip away now. Don't let it slip away now.
Count your blessings every night. You learn